Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another Sabbath Insight. I am Chief Yuya, and you are in tune now with the message from the ANU Life Global Ministries, as well as the ANU Nation, which I happen to be the founder and head of. I want to thank you for coming through, and I definitely want to thank all of you who have been consistently learning, consistently growing, consistently putting the work in. In our last session, I dealt with manifestation, right? And we got to cover some of the nine ether approaching in this 2025. But we also spoke about proper methods or maybe more effective methods of manifestation, and certainly more spiritual and divine methods of manifesting, as opposed to just wanting stuff and wanting things that you see. So we spoke about the potential and the value of moving beyond your sensory experience and manifesting from the unseen and from the immaterial, and most importantly, your imagination. So I'm going to continue with that thought and that idea a little bit more, but expand it. I'm going to make it even easier for you, way easier for you, and I'm going to make it even more effective for you. So you will be able to manifest things from a righteous perspective, with righteous vision, with righteous imagination, and with righteous intent. Because sometimes we manifest things and then afterwards we're like, oh, I shouldn't have asked for that. I shouldn't have wanted that. I shouldn't have wished for that. It's the classic genie in the three wish sort of motif and scenario. But when you have a moral compass, or you have a righteous compass that's in tune with your higher self and in tune with the entity that created and born your higher self, then your manifestation becomes something that's actually good for you, good for the planet, good for humanity, and most importantly, good for your soul's journey, right? So I'm going to get right into it. One of the things that, like I said, we spoke about in terms of manifestation is moving beyond seeking to manifest from a sensory or a materialistic sort of perspective, because that locks you into a grid, and it's only going to grow within the current grid that you're functioning in, right? So let's just say if you're living within a 4-mile radius, right? Everything that you do is within 4 miles, and the things that you see within that 4 miles, you say, well, that's what I want to manifest, or that's what I want, or that's what I, want to achieve, or whatever. Then there's no reason for your world to get any bigger. It's just, the universe is just going to pull from the environment that you currently exist in, right? So that's not manifesting on a divine level, because the divine is always seeking towards evolution and expansion, as opposed to stagnation, because stagnation is death. So if you're always manifesting within a small circumference, then you're just recycling. It's really necromancy or necro manifestation, where you're just recycling dead things. It's almost like eating dead animals all the time and expecting for new things to evolve out of you from eating dead animals all the time, right? And that is no knock against people who eat dead animals, but all the time is the operative word. At times you have to try other things and ingest things that are still evolving and still growing in order to evolve and grow yourself. So I wanted to touch upon the value of a few things with manifestation. This is really important. And the first thing that I wanted to speak about is the value of your emotions in your manifestation. Your emotions, okay? And then, of course, emotions eventually lead to feelings. And then sometimes it loops back around, and then feelings feed back into the emotion in the moment. But the emotion is something, it's energy in motion, or electricity in motion. It's something that you feel in the moment. And a feeling is something that you hold over a course of time. Now, I'm going to show you the importance of this by illustrating it through the design of the mind. In most instances, and just in the very basic ideas and form, we have a conscious mind, we have a subconscious mind, right? And some would even say a superconscious mind, but let's just keep it basic for now. Conscious, subconscious, right? And your conscious mind is your active thinking, your active memory, your active thoughts, so forth and so on. It changes a lot, based on what may be said to you, what you say to yourself, what you observe, so forth and so on. It's a very subjective sort of mental space. And then you have your subconscious mind, which is the more powerful of the two. It's the larger of the two. And everything that you see in creation comes from the subconscious mind. It doesn't necessarily come from the conscious mind, but rather the subconscious mind. Everything. Once you understand the law of mentalism and you can recognize that all things are the mind, then all things are consciousness. What part of the consciousness? The dark part, the subconscious part. Now, if we look at this, and this is a very important point because it'll make other things make more sense to you. If you look at it in terms of gender, your conscious mind is your male aspect and your subconscious mind is your female aspect. Male, conscious, female, subconscious. Conscious, light, subconscious, dark. Okay? Conscious, positive, subconscious, negative. All right? Now, that's an extremely important point. I've illustrated this before in the past in terms of one seeking to understand world religions. And I've often said, if you can understand male, female, positive, negative, north, west, south, east, center, you can understand any religion, right? Just if you can get, because the majority of the world religions are based around the interaction between those different elements. And then you take it another step further and get a thorough understanding of wind, get a thorough understanding of fire, get a thorough understanding of earth, get a thorough understanding of metal and wood, get a thorough understanding of water, and to the best of your ability, try to understand ether or akasha. Now you've graduated your understanding and you can go deeper into world religions. They're based around those concepts and how those concepts express themselves, right? And they express themselves through different cultures and different languages, sometimes as different archetypes or different figures, right? But those are the physical manifestations of those elements, right? So again, in the example of Akasha, we would have the Akashic energy, which would be the feminine or the spiritual, and then we have wind, which would be the masculine or the physical, right? So each one has its own counterpart. Earth has its own counterpart. Wind has its own counterpart. Fire has its own counterpart. Water has its own counterpart, right? This is important because remember, from that spiritual, and more specifically, the subconscious, all things manifest. All things come out of that subconscious, right? And we see examples of this, the interplay between the two. When we look at even in our Isheshe, we have the stories of Obatala and we have the stories of Yemunja. And at one point, they both lived in the calabash, right? As the story tells us. And Obatala was on the top and Yemunja was on the bottom. And she was complaining because the calabash was so cramped. It was so small in there, right? So they sought to expand the calabash. Now, first thing to understand is that in our Yoruba lore, the calabash is synonymous with the head, the ori. So when you see calabash in ancient times, they're not only talking about the calabash that we would use to carry food or to eat or to make bowls out of or anything like that. They're also speaking about the head, but they also are speaking about the world, because the calabash is supposed to be a symbolism of the world itself. It's also a symbol of the Odu, and the Odu itself is like, you have the Igba Odu. And Igba Odu is like a more sacred calabash, right? But then you have Odu. Du is womb, O is spirit, right? So Odu. And Odu is what we also call the black pot that we cook our food with, like just the basic pot. For some, you call it the Ogu or the Ogun pot, but it's the Odu pot, right? And any food, porridge, pumpkin soup, peanut butter soup, light soup, egusi. It comes from there, right? So those words, or that idea of Obatala and Yemonja living within this same space, right? And she's saying, okay, we need to expand. Well, what is expanding in that sense? The ori, or the head, the consciousness needs to expand. It's too small, right? The universe needs to expand. It's too small, right? We have all these different concepts when you relate the calabash back to it, right? So in that relationship, as I said, you have Obatala in the story, who was on top of the Odu, or the Igba Odu. And then you have Yemoja, who's on the bottom of it, right? And that is a great example of the interplay between conscious mind, subconscious mind, right? It is the interplay between your masculine and feminine. And if you have an imbalance between your masculine and feminine, you will not be able to manifest anything, right? And remember, that will express itself outwardly. So, because everything that exists within the subconscious now becomes the content of creation, it extends itself outward. And those things are motivated by feeling. So Yemoja says, it's too tight in here, right? Obatala says nothing, right? Because she's feeling claustrophobic. It gives you a concept of how you begin to program and really communicate with the subconscious mind. You don't communicate it through your linear reason, because it doesn't respond to reason. It doesn't respond to linear. If it did, we wouldn't manifest much in our lives, right? Because oftentimes what we want to manifest may not be the most logical. It may not be the most reasonable, but the subconscious mind, it's objective. Whatever you put into it it's what it is, right? Again, a perfect representation of a relationship between a man and a woman. When she is committed to that man and she loves that man and she comes under the presiding of that man, she will follow that man to the ends of the earth without question. When that is not the case, whenever he says we need to do this, or he asks her a question, there's a lot of that. She's often saying to him, well, did you think about this? Did you try this? Did you look at it this way? Did you look at it that way? Right? She's always trying to step and stomp over what he's expressing to her, because she refuses to be programmed or to produce what he's speaking of. It's a good way, men, to make a determination as to if the woman you're with is actually your woman. Sometimes you might be with someone, you could be with someone for 5-10 years. They're not actually really yours. And that's a way of knowing, and they can only fake it for so long. Some who are going to watch this are going to fake it now, but don't worry, it'll wear off. They can't fake it for long. Eventually you'll see them, unable to receive criticism, unable to receive what you're saying to them, and unable to produce and manifest anything that you put into them, whether it be right or wrong, because remember, the subconscious is an objective place. Now, I know there are some who would say, well, that's not right. I just supposed to do it right. When you are with the one that is yours, you don't even say things like that, right? So that's an example, right? A great example of how the two interplays, how to interplay together. Choose wisely. At the end of the day, if you have a whole bunch of complaints about, well, I can't listen to everything he says, then you chose foolishly. That's your fault, but you now have to be accountable for the decision that you made. If you're the type of guy that keeps a lot of secrets from your woman, and you always want to bring everything home, in the sense that you want to go manifest like you're the woman and then bring it to her because this is mine. You want it to be yours. You also chose foolishly. If you can't trust her in that sense to handle what it is that you put into her, or to interpret it properly. But here's the key when we're talking about manifestation. Again, when you have to understand that manifesting through the subconscious awareness is not logical or linear. It's not reasonable. It's persuasive, right? So it's just like when you're having a conversation with the woman, and I've instructed many men on this. They mess this one up. Sometimes they think they're talking to men. So they'll be speaking to their lover, their wife, their whatever, their consort, and they're speaking to her like she's a man. They're trying, maybe there's a disagreement, and they're logically breaking down what they're saying, and she's just, she thinks she's being illogical, but her logic is only based on her emotions, and it's only in place to prove what she feels. That's it. That's why when she's speaking, or when you're speaking and breaking things down, you still see that on her face, because whatever she thinks has to support the you see. So you're speaking to her in the wrong way. Now, when you develop a greater sense of emotional intelligence, you'll start to learn that the way that you speak to a woman is through emotion and persuasion, and not necessarily an evil sort of persuading, but you first have to address the emotion first, because that's what leaves the imprint and the stamp. That's why they're always saying things like, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Now, we men, we know that's complete foolishness. We know that. But this is, if you want to create things, you're going to have to learn to take a trod through Never Never Land. You're going to have to take a trod through Wonderland. And you're going to have to drop some of the rules of sensibility and sanity that we use in the outside world in order to go to the inside world. And the inside world is the world of the feminine, and it doesn't run on the same rules. Okay. It runs on energy and motion, right? It runs on energy and motion, which is its power. So when you're seeking to manifest through the subconscious awareness, it's not based upon mathematical formulas, because mathematical formulas often are linear and based around time, but rather it's based on spiritual immediacy. And that immediacy is something as simple as this. When we greet each other, we say shalom, or we say peace, right? So even in the moment, no matter what's happening right now, peace. And when I say peace, and when you hear peace, we should feel peace. And when we feel peace, we create peace, right? As opposed to logically looking at, well, how could there be peace? And this is going on, in systemic racism and oppression and disenfranchising and a lack of peer support, a lack of community resources. We could just go through the whole list, right? Everything's messed up, and it will continue to be messed up for as long as we maintain the feeling of it being messed up, right? So in our last segment, one of the things that I brought to your attention was, when we're manifesting and speaking from not necessarily our deficit, but speaking more from what it is that we want to bring or multiply within our experience, becomes critical. And one of the phrases that I used was want. Now that was gear one, right? Once you get that sort of in your system, like, okay, well, these are the things, instead of saying, I think I used the example of weight. I want to lose 35 pounds. Instead of saying I want to lose 35 pounds or 7 pounds, I want to be more healthy, right? Because when you start to use the linear, it's not going to work in Never Never Land. It's not going to work in the land of the matriarchy. What is the land of the matriarchy? The subconscious mind. But if you can't learn to navigate that world, you won't get anything. So if you go in that world and say 7 pounds, she said, oh, I'm not good at math. I don't know, man. I want to be healthy and I want to be beautiful. That I understand. I can give you that. You see, because that's the language that I use. I want to feel like this. When I go outside, or when I put my suit on, or I put my shirt on, or my pants, I want them to fit this way. And I want to have this sort of glow and, this sort of smile. And I want my eyes to be bright like this, and my skin to have this sort of, luster to it, and this and that. And aside from all of that, I want to feel this way. I can get you there. So how will I get you there? You have to explain the feeling to me in order for me to manifest that. This is the subconscious speaking to the conscious mind. The subconscious says you have to not just explain the feeling to me, you have to illustrate the feeling to me in order for me to manifest it. If you don't illustrate it to me, I can't manifest it. I don't care how many words you use. This is not the land of that. This is not the land of verbiage. This is the land of energy and electricity in motion. And then I will magnetize those things into your environment. Yeah, I'll skip that. So then the conscious mind says, okay, then I need to not say I want or I will, but I have and I am, and this is how it feels. You see, that's how the subconscious mind now allows itself to be programmed, because it recognizes a condition that is immediate, and an energy, an emotion, an energy that is in motion immediately. If I say, I want more money, I have to acknowledge that right now, currently, I have less money. And even if it's just for a nanosecond, the moment that I acknowledge that I have less money, I have the feeling of less money. And that feeling is what will program my subconscious. Even though I said I want or I will, the feeling is what's going to get programmed, not the words. I know people often, speak about the value of chanting and mantra, and there is great value in that, and I'm going to get into that. But it's not really the words, because if you notice, after you're chanting for a time, for one, you don't really know what you're saying, and you don't really hear what you're saying. After a while, it's just you kind of numb out, and your mouth is moving. You're saying the words, but you're not really focused too much on the words or their meaning. But there is a certain energy that is raised around you or within you that now becomes your place of power, right? So one, again, the ability to use emotion to persuade the subconscious is everything. No different than your ability to use emotion to communicate with your woman is everything. Using logic does not work. It will only frustrate you. And some women are adept at knowing that, and they will use that against you, and just inwardly they're just laughing at you, like, look at him go. And you're sitting here pulling out a whiteboard on wheels, and you're creating all these diagrams and all this mind mapping, and you got the calculator on your phone out and everything. And she's just laughing at you because she's like, look at him go. I'm going to let him keep going till he wears himself out, but this is not getting through. But express through an emotion, and not describe emotion, because chances are she won't care. you know how you make me feel? That's how it sounds in her ears. But through emotion, persuade, and she will understand and she will move, right? But it's important because just like we have the story of Atum and Hawa, right? The Most High had to say, your desire will be for your husband. See, that was an illustration of the relationship between the conscious and the subconscious mind. If Hawa, or Eve, was the subconscious mind, and Atum, or Adoma, or Adam, was the conscious mind, then saying that your desire will be to him, the subconscious mind, you will have no insight of your own because you're a negative dark space. So it will be everything that the conscious mind drops into you that will now be your content of creation. So your desire will not be for your own inspiration. Well, I'm going to go get this. I'm going to go through Da'at or eat the fruit. I'm going to go do that. And I'm going to go speak to Inky. No, that's not going to happen. You're going to focus on the conscious mind. And whatever the conscious mind puts in you is where you will produce from. And through pain, through labor, through time, you will manifest the child. And the child is the manifestation of the subconscious mind. So all things that you see around you are a manifestation of the subconscious. These are the children of the subconscious. No different than when we speak about yam. We have yam and sometimes we give them as offerings, or people give them as offerings. I don't necessarily do that, but they're given as offerings in certain traditions. And these are considered to be the fruit of the earth. This is the manifestation of what came out of the darkness of the earth. No different than fish are the fruit of the ocean, or the manifestation that comes from the darkness of the ocean. Well, the reality that exists around you is the fruit of the copulation of the conscious mind with the subconscious mind, right? And again, I want to reiterate because it's so very important. You can manifest incorrect things. You can manifest wrong things, and you will have only yourself to blame for it because it is a manifestation from your own consciousness. As a man thinketh, so is he. As a woman thinketh, so is she. Why? Because you are manifesting your own reality from what you trickle and secrete into the subconscious mind, right? So when we say as a woman is or how as a man is, it's not just who you are as a person, it's your reality as what you see around you. If you're living within filth, it is because you are trickling and secreting filth into your own mind. If you are surrounded by people who consistently lie to you, it's because you consistently lie. Whatever you drop into that very fertile pool of creation that we call the subconscious, or we call the Odu, or we call the calabash, or we call the Ori, that is what will flower and sprout from it, right? So it's a very important interplay between the two when we look at the value of emotion. Now, our second piece that we'll look at, I spoke about meditation, or what some people may call prayer. I would suggest you check out the segment I did on why pray. Very old segment at this point, I believe, but it will give you some insight into what prayer truly is, and why you may hear us in ANU say, well, we affirm, because we don't pray, we affirm, right? And that's a part of what I'm even saying here. When you're affirming something, you're recognizing that I am what I am becoming. You see, when the Most High was asked, what is your name? He didn't say, I will, or I'm gonna be the hottest Elohim in the galaxy. Watch, be the hottest Elohim in town. He said, I am what I am becoming. So I am that thing now that I am becoming. You see, now when it's translated into the English, you'll just read, he said that I am. But that's not what it actually, if you translate the words, it's not what it was said. What was actually said is that I am what I am willing to become, or I am what I am becoming. So if I say, I want to be the prime minister of my own island, well, I want to be, so I will want to be. That is what I will manifest, a want. But if I, in my inner vision, see myself as a prime minister of the ANU island, and I say, I am what I am becoming, then I am the prime minister of the ANU island, which is also becoming, right? And I know in our linear thinking, it's kind of hard to, it's like, wait, are you that or are you becoming that? If you're thinking linear, it will be like that. But if you're thinking holistically, you will understand that it's just a loop. It's a loop. So I am what I am going to be, right? Now, that could be negative or positive. So what do we use in this instance to sort of tap into that reality or tap into that sort of motif? In most instances, we use a very powerful mechanism, but a very simple mechanism. I told you it will be very simple. We go to sleep. When Adoma was gifted with Hawa, he was put to sleep, right? And remember, it was the Elohim who said, they were like, yo, it's not good for him to be alone. He needs something of his own kind to save him, because Edir Kenegdo means savior. It doesn't translate really into helpmeet. It means savior. He needs something of his own kind, the woman, to come and save him. Now, why put him to sleep and take a piece of his side? Didn't really necessarily say rib, it said his side. Why do that? Why did he have to be asleep? Because during his sleep time, we can tap into his subconscious and get a perfect understanding of what his righteous desire and righteous image is. Because if we were able to say it's not good for him to be alone, we might start touching these animals. He needs something of his own texture to interact with. Why didn't we just go make it? Why did we need the content, the substance of his subconscious to actually make something for him? We could have just did it for him, but then it would have been something that made it and matched with us. And we don't have the same desires, responsibilities, and expectations that Adoma or Atum has. So we have to put Atum to sleep in order to go into Atum's subconscious. Now, Atum not only has a conscious representation of himself, but now he can look over on the other side of the garden and look at his subconscious. You see? And when the serpent came and the seraph interrupted that experience, he now said, okay, well, I will program your subconscious for you. And we see what happened in that instance. Whether you see it as good or bad, I think that is actually subjective. As far as it no longer being in the Ga of Eden or the Garden of Eden, right? But nonetheless, so we see a perfect representation of that, the sleep factor. You have heard me say before in speaking on seasons, and as we're coming up to our winter solstice pretty soon, I often call it the great sleep, right? It's the time when things go underground, they gestate, and then in the spring, they come forth renewed again. And I often put myself in that same position. It's when I do a lot of my wood shedding, it's when I do a lot of my isolating, even a lot of my purging, but I also add things on to my life and to my experience so that I can properly go underground, for a few months before I reemerge in the spring, right? So if we look at that as an idea of a sleep, right? Even the season, the winter season, it's an idea of a sleep. Then we could say, well, this is a time that we now tap more into our subconscious mind because the sun is very young now, meaning the days are shorter. And now we're starting to go back into we're going to go into a victory stage. Eventually, slowly, there'll be an equinox when it'd be 12 hours of night, 12 hours of day, and then the sun will again conquer once again. It's always the same story, but we're going into that season of the baby Messiah, right? Where it's small and everything around it is larger. So it's quiet, it's observing, it's watching, you see? So this time where you would program your subconscious, you have to be very clear on the purity of your thoughts, pure and clean like fresh snow, right? The purity of your thoughts because of your potential and your ability to program yourself right now and to manifest for the spring. Now is the time when you go to sleep and you go through your emotions inside of the subconscious, right? But how do we enter into this season? Because how we enter into this season will determine how we come out of this season. No different than this. You ever had something that was really bothering you? Could have been a disagreement, could have been some stress you were carrying, some anxiety, some worry. You go to bed, you wake up with a headache, or you wake up exhausted, not to mention the night visions you may have that are terrifying. You might have nightmares and things like that. But nonetheless, you wake up with still this feeling of of dread and fright because of how you laid yourself down. You see, one of the greatest values that some were taught, I didn't grow up in a house like this, but, some people as children, they were taught to say their prayers before they go to bed, right? That's a very, very, very powerful tool in manifestation when used properly, right? Whether you pray, whether you affirm, or whether you meditate. Because what is it that you're doing when you're doing those things? When you pray and they say, now close your eyes and do all that, right? You're trying to shut your senses down. When you meditate, you're seeking to shut down your senses, right? Now, shutting down your senses, why are you doing that? Because ultimately, you're seeking to pretend like you're asleep. And through the pretending of being asleep, but not being asleep, you then program the subconscious mind for manifestation. You see? So it's no different than when you're laying down to go to sleep. That's why the sun should never set on your anger. You shouldn't go to bed angry, because now you're going to go into your subconscious time and you're going to mate and enter anger into your inner woman, right? And this is the same whether you're male or female. So I don't, for women, I don't want you to think like, well, my subconscious is male because I'm a woman. No, your subconscious is still female and your conscious mind is still male, right? And I mean, I can't speak for other men, but I know me myself. When I am not in the best of spirits, I avoid my family. Because I don't want to. I know the power of my light. I know the power of my influence. I know the power of my words. And I never want any of them to be laced with anger or to be laced with hate or rage or anything. Even if I'm depressed in the moment, I don't want any of my words and my energy to be laced with that. So I pull back, right? Because I know the power of my presence. Now, you consider this, I think, matter of fact, a great example of that would be this. The Song of Solomon, I think, does an awesome illustration of this. Because a lot of times when we're reading things in different scripture and we're reading about the interplay between male and female, we stick it and leave it right there. And not realizing that if the book starts off with the interplay with the Elohim, male and female, let's make them in our image, male and female made in. So it's telling you from the beginning, like, and again, I broke down Bereshit for you before, like, in the mind of the Elohim, the law of Israel was kept, right? But nonetheless, if you look at that, you see from the very beginning, there's an interplay between male and female, right? And there's an interplay in terms of creation as it relates to male and female. Even when they're given the instructions, go replenish the earth and multiply, master. Go replenish the earth and master, right? It's given to the man and the woman. It didn't say, the Elohim didn't say, or really at that point, it was Yahuwah, didn't say to Adoma, hey, buddy, Eve, could you step over there for a minute? I got something to tell Adoma. Adoma, you make sure you multiply and you master and you replenish this barren planet. All right, you guys go ahead. Have fun, right? He didn't do that. Said it to both of them, right? So the manifestation responsibility was on them both. The mastering responsibility was on them both. And one of the things that we're mastering is our emotions, our energy in motion. You see. But I'm going to give an example of that, then I'll get back to that. So if you look at the Song of Solomon, the 3rd chapter, in the nights on my bed, I sought him whom my nefesh, that soul, my soul loves. I sought him, but I found him not. So I will rise then and go about in the city and the streets and in the open places. I will seek him who my soul loves. I sought him, but found him not. The watchmen that go about the city found me, to whom I said, saw ye with whom my soul loves? Scarcely had I passed from them, when I found him whom my soul loveth. I held him and would not let him go, until I had brought him into the Ba'is Imah, which is the house of my mother, and into the Kida of her that conceived me. The Kida is a chamber of her. That's a reference to the womb of she that received me, right? I think that's one of the most perfect representations of the manifestation that it occurs between conscious and subconscious mind. You have the subconscious mind, the woman. saying, I'm in bed, I'm waiting for my lover. My lover didn't come to me, so I went to go look for my lover. And then I passed by the Shomarim, which is the watchman. And as soon as I passed the Shomarim, which were the blockers, I see my lover. And I take my lover into my womb, into my chamber, into the womb. Because what is the womb? The womb of creation. This is where I produce things. This is where I send product and content out into the world, right? So I think it's an amazing representation of how the subconscious mind desires and looks for the input from the conscious mind. It waits like a lover in bed, waiting to be filled, literally, filled with the fruit of the conscious mind, filled with the instructions and the guidance of the conscious mind. Now remember, I'm going to reiterate this. Doesn't mean that that guidance is correct. It could be wrong. It may not necessarily be correct. She doesn't care. You are my lover. Whatever you give me, I will receive and create something with. The responsibility of giving me good, healthy, proper light is on you, conscious mind. That's on you. So if you come into my chamber, no pun intended, but kind of intended. If you come into my chamber and your emotions are toxic, I will reproduce toxicity. Now, every night when you go to bed, your lover awaits you. And you know she is your greatest lover because she knows what no one else knows. She knows what you feel when no one else knows that you feel it. You may be in a situation where you may have a poker face. You may be one of those people that no matter how terrified you are, you can look like what? Right? I got one of those faces. Situations I've been in where I was like screaming on the inside, but on the outside I look like, whatever. But when I go to bed at night, my lover knows. So when I go into that dream state and now I'm having nightmares, I'm being chased, I'm being stabbed, I'm fighting, I'm this, that, with all these different horrible things, it's a reflection of the emotion that I laid down with, that the world didn't know anything about because I got a poker face. But my lover truly knows me, right? So I have to be mindful of how I enter into my lover's chambers. One of the very first things, wash at night. It's very funny to me sometimes. I see different shows, like movies and stuff, and people come home and they take off their clothes and get in bed. Like, that's nasty, first of all. But is that how even your physical lover, and I've said that for years, I am quicker to shower and bathe at night than I am in the dawning. In the dawning, if I miss it, whatever. But at night, if I'm getting into bed with my lover, how dare I bring my all-day funk into the bed with my lover? I'd rather give my all-day funk to the world. Here, y'all take that. Take that man musk. But if I'm getting into the bed with my lover and, we may decide that we want to have a session, and don't go down, don't do that, and I'm armpits closed, and now don't lick my neck is nasty and salty, don't do, that's messed up, right? So what kind of respect do I have for my subconscious mind? Because it's going to reflect in the respect and the reverence that I have for my physical representation of my subconscious, which is my ish, which is my woman, my wife, you see, my consort. So one of the things, we have to prepare ourselves to go into the chamber. Like when children are on the side of the bed and they, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray my Lord my soul to take. Is that it? I think that's it. Again, I didn't grow up like that, so I don't know it, but I think that's it. But they are preparing. They are setting their emotions straight. They're resetting. So you may be a person who affirms or meditates at night. You had a hard day. Let me take a good, or it might be I'm gonna take a spiritual bath. Let me get some milk and Let me get some crystals and let me get some candles, put some flowers in the water. However it is you do it, play some music, or maybe I just have some chants playing, or I have a singing bowl, and I just need to reset my energy. And then I'm going to meditate, or maybe I'm meditating in the bath, or I'm going to, affirm, I'm going to speak to the Most High. I'm going to read some scriptures or whatever it is, but I'm going to reset myself. So now when I lay down and go into my realm of manifestation, where I'm looking to now connect with my subconscious mind, I'm not coming in with the anger or the hurt or the disappointment or the discouragement or the fear of the day, but rather I'm going into it with the empowerment of knowing that I am what I am becoming. So if I have a high idea or a high vision, that's what I'm programming myself with at night. If I'm going to be the prime minister of the ANU Island at night, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm feeling. I'm smelling the salt water already. I'm seeing the blue water already in my mind's eye, or that sound of, when the young people are climbing the coconut trees to knock down coconuts, and they're laughing and yelling at each other and, cracking jokes and things like that. And then the sound of that machete cutting through that coconut. I'm hearing that sound. I'm hearing, my community laughing in the distance. I'm hearing, brothers and sisters giving the young people lessons, on how to do things, and the elders watching the babies. I'm hearing that, or running them out of the kitchen and things like that, because a couple of the elders in the community, they wanted to make some treats for the young people, and they keep going to the kitchen asking if it's ready yet. You see, I can just go because I have a very overactive imagination, which is great. That's what you want. I used to get written up for that when I was in school. Almost every report card used to say the same thing. It was like deep. All my teachers had the same complaint. They would all say, like, for conduct was always like perfect across the board. They always would say I was very mannerable and this and like that. But they would all say the same thing. He daydreams all day. Because that's what I would do. Hey, you put in a window in the classroom, I'm looking out. I'm looking out the window, and I'm just daydreaming all day. And I'm daydreaming about today. Today, right now, as you're watching this, this is what I used to dream about. That was my number one thing. My father would always say, "What are you thinking about?" Because I would always have this serious face thinking, and my answer was always the same: thinking about what I'm gonna be like when I'm older. Thinking about what kind of adult I'm gonna be. That's all I used to think about. How am I gonna be when I'm older? And look, I manifested it. It happened. You see, and I would get excited about being able to drive one day. Man, one day I'm gonna be able to drive. One day I'm gonna have all the instruments that I want to have. One day I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be able to go to the beach whenever I want to go to the beach and just go swimming and this and that and that. Yeah. I'm gonna have a big motorcycle like Daddy. He got him. I'm gonna have me a big motorcycle. Yeah, did it. Big house. Yeah, pretty wife. Yeah, did all the stuff. See, and I would sit there and daydream about it during biology and during math class and and manifested it. And the most important thing is I didn't internalize others' issues with what I wanted to manifest, because me and my lover knew what we were going to do, right? We knew the family that we were planning. Now, what was that family? Remember, your fruit, your understanding is the reality around you. My lover and I, we knew what we were manifesting. Oh, you're going to be the baddest man on the planet. Yeah, you're going to travel all over around. You're going to be all up in Africa. You're going to do this. You're going to speak a bunch of different languages. You're going to, yeah. See, me and my lover were family planning since I was a small child. You see? And it only works if the emotion is included with it. Because logically, it makes no sense. Logically, I should have been paying attention in class. Logically, that's what I should have been doing. So I could then have the life promised to me by the system. Good life. That's what I should have done. But I had my own vision and concept of a good life that brought better emotions than that one did. So those emotions were better food for my lover, my subconscious. You see? So your sleep or your daydreaming, or your meditating or your prayer is very powerful, because those different things emulate. Like I said, whether it's lucid dreaming, whether it's affirming, whether it's meditating, whether it's deep breathing mantras, you are seeking to emulate sleep. That's all you're doing. You're trying to pretend that you are asleep. So you try to do it in a space where there's very few distractions. It's a quiet environment where you can sit comfortably, so forth and so on. And if you notice, after a while, very similar to sleep, even if you're sitting uncomfortably, there comes a moment where you don't feel yourself sitting at all. You begin to leave your body. After a while, your body becomes very heavy and you can feel the weight of your own structure as you're seeing yourself into the next space. I am. You could just be chanting that. I am. You probably just saw it on the camera. I didn't do it on purpose, but I did feel my shoulders dropping. I felt myself slumping, right? And it was probably, I can't see it, but it was probably very minute. But eventually, just from me chanting that maybe 10 times, I just said it, I'm ready to go. I'm out. That was asked before of me, and I knew, how often do I meditate? And one of the things that I shared is that I don't really sit down to meditate at all, but I am always in meditation. So I really don't need to. There was a time that, yes, I used to sit down and I would meditate a lot. And then eventually my existence became that I'm always daydreaming. I'm always half asleep. I'm always in La La Land. I'm always in Wonderland. I'm always in Never Never Land. Or as my father used to complain and say, he's a space cadet. I'm always gone. But I have a good poker face, so it doesn't look like it. It looks like I'm grounded. I'm right here. I'm not even. I'm gone. So I can send myself into trance with just a few words because I'm always right there. You see, like when the subconscious had to pass the Shomarim or the watchman, and then she found her lover immediately, right? So I'm always at the gates of the watchman. So as soon as I just because it said right after, found my lover. See, I'm always right there at the gates. You see, and that takes time. That's not something that you get in a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. I have decades and decades of this in now, right? So as a result, I'm always in a very fertile space. That's where you want to be. I'm always pretending that I'm asleep. I'm always almost asleep. You see? So I'm always in meditation all the time, and that's where it comes from. So you have those two things. One, the value of your emotion and your meditation, and two, the value of good rest and putting yourself to rest properly, whether it's, what you're wearing. If you're one of those people, and I understand a lot of people are single and don't necessarily have a consort, don't have a lover, it doesn't mean half of your bed should be clothes that you need to fold and put away that came from the laundry, your laptop, and your phone. And then the other little slither is for you to sleep in. It doesn't mean that's what your bed should be, right? It doesn't mean that just because you love the color red, that you got all red sheets and you're not going to sleep restfully in that. Your bed sheets and pretty much your bedroom, but definitely your bed should always be flesh colored, right? So pink is cool, brown is cool, beige is cool. Again, we could go on and on. Peach is cool. The colors are flesh. Why? Because when you go into your chamber, your bed, which is really a laboratory for the subconscious mind, you are going into the womb. So what colors are in a womb, right? And one might say red. Well, sometimes, but that's not really the times for that you may want to manifest, especially in such a wild place like Neverland, the subconscious. So you want to emulate the room, but and I know you might be like, but I want everything black. I want a black bedroom and this and that. That could be dangerous as it relates to manifestation. Or I want everything purple because purple is my favorite color. That also could be dangerous, right? Go with flesh. Your bed should feel like I am reclining into flesh. So what does that mean? That means I'm not going to have a wooden headboard. I'm not going to have a wooden headboard because I want what supports me to be firm and sturdy, but to be soft like a womb, because that's where I'm going. I'm going to have a cloth headboard. I'm going to have a headboard. Even if it's something that I make, that's cool. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to have a bunch of things under my bed, right? Because those bunch of things under my bed they get entangled with my subconscious mind. I'm not going to have anything in my room that's going to evoke any emotion. My ex might have given me a picture or something, and it's just such a cool picture. I like it. But yeah, every time I see it, I think about my ex, and maybe we didn't end on the best of terms, right? And subconsciously, there's a programming that's happening. Why? Because there's an emotional attachment to that thing. You see? Now, these are just little small things, right? But the power of rest and preparing for it is the power of manifestation. How we go into it is how we create. You're not creating the subconscious mind during the day. You're not manifesting from the subconscious. You are experiencing the manifestations of the subconscious mind. So what happens is when you wake up, your day is already done. What was going to be manifested already manifested. It's done. Right? So the only thing that you can do during the day, your free will is in how you react to what you have already manifested the night before. Your free will is in your reaction, not in, well, it's going to be this kind of day today. It's going to be this kind of reaction to the day today. And then when I lay myself down, this is how I'm going to reset, clear, and program for what I am moving to next. If I say, hey, I want to be the next greatest bass player out of such and such and such and such, then I might go to bed with my bass in my arms, or I might go to bed listening to some Larry Graham or some Marcus Miller or some Stanley Clark or Victor Wooten, or Thundercat, great artists, great bass players, and then getting excited, and listening and like, man, yeah, I could see myself playing that, or, man, and oh man, and that. And when I turn my amp on or kick it up or do this EQ setting, and I'm gonna see the seats rumble a little bit, man, with that bass frequency. And I know every time I make the seats rumble a little bit, how people like to move a little bit. I'm gonna be picturing all of that stuff. I'm gonna be locking in with the drummer and that kick drum, But the feeling is not just the vision, it's the feeling. You see, because people who fail at this, people who fail at manifestation, they fail because they lack discipline. And the reason that they lack discipline, because they only seek to manifest from their sensory experience. And once their sensory experience does not align with what it is that they would like to manifest, they stop, they lose hope, and then they become a slave and a servant to their senses. You see, a person who has discipline can move beyond their senses. You see, like you ever hear somebody, they're fasting and say, oh, I'm starving. I was watching an episode of, I don't know if it was my 600 pound, 500 pound life, whatever, those big giant people. And there was a woman who was like, she didn't want to eat any of the food that the doctor had, they were giving in the hospital. She was like, she was big, man. And she was like, I don't eat that. And I'm going to need something to eat. I'm starving. And the doctor said, you're not starving. He said, you have eaten enough food for the next 4 years. You don't have to eat anything for 4 years and you will not die. But in the moment, a person becomes like Esau. They see the soup and they're like, I'm starving. I got to eat that. Or I'll sell you my birthright. Just give me the soup. See, undisciplined people like that, they always fall for whatever their senses are dictating, and they never manifest anything. So that goes to what I was sharing with you in our last segment when I was talking about trying to manifest from the material. If you try to manifest from the material, you're going to be manifesting from senses. It doesn't work. And your manifestations will always be grotesque, wobbly, imbalanced things. You see? So you have to make sure that you are a disciplined person and that you have control over your emotions. So when you go to bed at night, you are controlling what emotion that you're entering into that experience with. So when you meet your lover at night, you're not having angry copulation or fearful copulation. You're having confident, clear copulation on what it is that we're going to manifest. Now, of course, is this the same in the physical? Yes. Yes, it is. And that's why oftentimes when we are copulating in the act, we're expressing an honesty that we may not usually. Now we're hugging and we're holding and we may not even normally do those sort of things. We're kissing in places that we might not even be a kisser, but I want my mouth here and this and that, I want to enjoy just your hand maybe and rubbing your hand or whatever it is. There's an honesty that comes in, but if you have no emotional control, you have no discipline, you have no power to manifest. Okay. So I wanted to give you these tips and I don't want to say they're tips, they're gems. They're bigger than tips because this is just not going to help your manifestation. If you don't do these things, you won't manifest anything righteous. Because the thing is, you have to, for those of you who are living righteously, align yourself with righteous intent. And you'll never do that or renew your mind, like gaining the mind of Yahushua, gaining the mind of the Christ. You'll never be able to do that without emotional control. You'll never be able to do that without the ability or recognizing the power of sleep. That's why we have a sleep story right in the very beginning of Torah. Adam was put to sleep. Oh, that's where creation came from, the sleep world. In our Vedas, we have the story about the great sleep of Rama, the great sleep. And I've broken that down before. There's a segment I did. It's somewhere on YouTube. And I spoke about what happens during rest, and sometimes I think I used the example of the consciousness of a people or a whole ethnic group. Sometimes we lose so much hope because we're locked into the sensory experience. And through the sensory experience, we say, man, look at our people. Look at all the stupid things we're doing. Look at all the silly things. Look at all the stuff we're getting to. Look at all the problems we're getting into. And what we don't say is we are asleep. We are asleep. So your creativity is going to happen while you're asleep, not awake. So, of course, there's this whole woke movement that, started some years ago during the Black Lives Matter scam. And during that time, everyone was sharing, I'm woke, I'm woke, I'm woke, I'm woke, I'm woke. Go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. Sleep. Close the eyes. Because that's where the creation comes from. So sometimes those who you may look at from a hypercritical perspective and have things to say about, because you're like, oh man, they sleep, they so sleep, doesn't mean they're dead. They're not zombies. And during that sleep time is when they're creating. Just like in the wintertime, you may see less of me. Oh, what happened? Maybe he fell off. Maybe he got strung out or something. No, I'm asleep. I'm hibernating. And while I'm hibernating, I'm moving through the world like an automaton. So you may see things and be like, why would he do that? Why would he do that? Why? Because he's sleeping. Wait till I wake up. Just wait. Wait till I wake up. Now, when you live in a wicked society, like Robert Nestle Marley said, kill them before they grow. A wicked society seeks to cut you off before you wake up. So I'm going to cut you off when you're the notorious B.I.G. at 26 years old. I'm going to cut you off when you're Machiavelli, Tupac Machiavelli, when you're 25 years old. I'm not going to give you the chance to wake up. I know you're asleep right now. Before you get an opportunity to awake, you're gone. You see. But if you have a righteous vision for where you should be and where you're going, your awakening will be such a powerful instrument, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But this is an opportunity now, and I would say especially, let me say something quickly to those of you who need to, there's many of you, need to understand the value and the purpose of freedom financially. It comes from a proper vision, always from a proper vision. And sometimes individuals, they want to jump from nothing to manifestation because you've been listening to too many gurus lying to you. What you do is this. Let me give you a simple formula, especially for you young people. Pay attention. Simple. Study. You working a gig right now, whatever little bit you're making, start putting a little bit of money to the side. Pick something, an industry or business that you want to do. Take a year to 2 years to study it while you're stacking bread. While you're doing that, find some brothers and sisters who want to do the same thing. That may mean that you may have to join some professional societies, right? There are plenty of groups, right? And they have usually yearly annual membership dues. Could be $100, could be $200, could be $300, could be $400 or $500, whatever. Pay it. Stop being cheap. Pay it. Join groups of creatives, but find brothers and sisters who want to do exactly what you want to do, right? My suggestion is you find between 4 to 8 other people who want to do what you want to do. Why 4 to 8? Because you want creative thoughts in the mix, but you also want to invest in a way so that your investment doesn't wipe you out. So if you have a business idea that you have to go into that costs money to get into, it could be a sneaker store, or whatever, a sports store, and you have 8 people who are investing in it, and each of those 8 people is, putting in less than 20%, 15%, 13%, they're putting into this business. If things do not go exactly as planned, you would have only lost a 15% investment or 12% investment, as opposed to losing 100% investment. Now, I know what you may say, but I won't get all the money. You ain't getting none of the money right now. And 20%, 30%, 40%, 15%, 10% of something is better than 100% of nothing, right? But now what happens is during that time period where you're studying, you're learning all that you can, you're not rushing, you're learning all that you can about that industry or about that business, or you guys are meeting consistently and you're gathering your crew together, you sleep. But remember how you have to go into your sleep. You have to go into your sleep already seeing it. So if your vision is to open up a sports related store, or a camping store, we're gonna sell hiking boots and tents and sleeping bags and stuff, whatever it is, right? I'm just I'm gonna take all the time that I possibly can to not only learn about the demographic of people who buy that stuff, where these kind of places are typically located, what kind of numbers are they doing now? Is this a trending industry or is it an industry on a decline? How has online sales affected this? Let's talk about warehousing, things like that. I'm going to take the time to learn that and to get a sense of my team, but I'm entering it already seeing it. I already know what picture I'm putting up in my office and what kind of music will play over the overhead speakers, or what kind of specials we'll run, what the color motif that we're going to use, and what it smells like in there, what it sounds like in there, what the items feel like. I'm there already. I'm going into my sleep period, and my sleep period may be 12, 24 months. I'm going into my sleep period with that. So imagine what you're going to manifest with those 4 to 8 people. If you are doing the same, we're all going to go to sleep. We're going to share a dream. We're going to have a shared vision experience. And we're going to reinforce that for 2 years. We're going to reinforce this vision amongst each other. Oh my goodness. Imagine what you would produce at the end of, if you even took 1 year to take the study, at the end of 12 months or 18 months, a year and a half, or 24 months, 2 years. Take your time, because you are programming your subconscious, and you're programming the subconscious of 4 to 8 people with the same exact vision to manifest. You will win. You will win. I promise you, you will win. That cooperative work in economics, it works. I promise you, it works. All right, so I just wanted to share that, in terms of manifestation, and willfully that assist you and your work going forward. I know it will if you apply it, so just apply it. And speaking of applying, I want to give definitely a shout out of love and respect and reverence to all people who've been applying for ANU Life Global Ministries, and being a part of this nation and this community and this collective of a bunch of people who are programming with the same righteous vision of independence, community, cultural reclamation, ethnic sovereignty and dignity, royalty. You see, getting and returning to what we were designed and born to be. That's what ANU Nation is. It's not, like I said 100 million times, it's not a religion. We are not a religion. I mean, we are a religion in a sense, because religion is to bind you back to your source. So it is in that sense, but not in the secular sense of what a religion is, even though it seems like a contradiction of 2 words together. But so I just want to give some love for all of those of you who have applied, and those of you who are on the fence, who know that you have a powerful vision to contribute to the community of learners and the community of doers. I welcome you to apply. I welcome you to support the ministry. And I want to thank all of you who do support the ministry, whether it's in liking a video or subscribing to the channel to help the algorithm, so we can get these sort of messages out to larger groups of people, or whether it's sending in donations that help with the work that we're doing, or coming to a retreat. I mean, we get helped a lot. Sometimes it's feedback. Sometimes it's just someone saying like, yo, I really like this thing. I like when y'all was doing it. Y'all gonna do that again? You're gonna have this, oh, I like that series you did. You gonna have any more series, or you might want to try this, or, this or that, all of the pouring in, thank you. However, it's whatever's being poured, it's very similar to how the subconscious expresses itself. You put the emotion in, and the emotion becomes a bunch of different things. It could be a flower growing, it could be you were leaving the house and you forgot your watch, or you forgot your socks. I mean, not just your scarves, or it could be socks. And you go back and you make yourself 5 minutes late. And because you made yourself 5 minutes late, you avoided an accident that would have caused your death. These are all positive and beautiful, blessed expressions from the subconscious. All right. So I want to thank you all who've expressed your gratitude, and who, most importantly, faith without works is dead, who have actually put the effort and revealed and evidenced your faith and your support in what we're doing through your actual work, through your actual attendance, and through your actual contributions, fiscally or with time, whatever it is. All right. So with that, I am Chief Yuya signing out, and be sure to subscribe. Make sure you're following everything we're doing, and subscribe to across the social media channels: House of Yuya, ANU Man, ANU Woman, or ANU Womb, Chief Yuya, ANU Life GM. There's a bunch of them. I'm gonna mess this one up. Feminine. Go on Facebook and look for Okoti ANU. I don't know the name of we got a Facebook group now that you can join for you sisters. It's only for the women, only for the sisters. It's just a journey on reclamation, redefining, understanding, and clarifying one's femininity. I would urge all of you sisters, if you're on Facebook, which you probably are, especially if you're 35 and over, to go over there and join that Facebook group. All right. With that, thank you, everyone. Shalom.